Welcome back, League Nighters. We are back for kind of a special swing breakdown. We're actually doing kind of a revisit of a swing breakdown. So we've got up here, as you can see, side-by-side images here of Jason, and the one you see on the left is actually a swing we broke down probably about a year ago of his. One of our very first swing breakdowns when we hadn't broke down any pros yet. We were just kind of looking at our own stuff, seeing what we could figure out. And now the one you see on the right, that's actually one we just took a couple of weeks ago. So it's a much more modern swing. So our goal today is we're going to actually walk through these. We've got them synced up together so we can actually see what's going on, what's changed, what's the same, what's improved, maybe what still needs to improve, or maybe something that never needed to be improved. So we're going to kind of look at all of those things. And if you like what you see here in this video, like, subscribe, leave us a comment letting us know exactly what you like about these and what you'd like to see in the future, and we'll make sure to implement that into future videos. All right, so let's jump in here to the video. We're going to let Jason kind of drive the car here on this one since it is his swing. He knows more about it. So kind of walk us through what you see here when we're doing this.
So I think what will make the most sense for us is to break it down into 4 parts. So we'll talk about kind of the stance, how you're getting set up to attack the next pitch that's coming. We'll talk about what I kind of refer to as the preload or the load phase, where the ball is just released and you're preparing to attack the ball. Third phase will be the actual attack. You're going to unload your swinging to hit the ball, and then from contact through will be the follow through, will be the 4th part. I think it makes sense because I've made a lot of mechanical changes in all of those phases of the swing. And I think one of the biggest things is I was coming from a baseball background. So a lot of what I was working through is just kind of moving from those ingrained baseball mechanics into a softball swing, which I think a lot of us are going through.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why we thought it would be really important to kind of take a year ago swing. I think this was probably from some time January of last year. So
pretty close
probably
to
almost 12 months ago. And like Cam mentioned, we were really just getting into this. And so I don't know that we really had ever taken that much of a deep dive into the technical aspects of softball swings. And by no means are we experts at this point. But I think we've learned a lot about what has made people successful after breaking down some of the best Conference USSSA players that are out there right now, having conversations with Conference USSSA players like Brandon Traylor, giving us tips and pointers about how we can improve our swings and just different mechanical things that we can work on, as well as just being out and playing every weekend for the last year.
Almost every
You're going to go and you're going to get a lot of information from a lot of people that have been playing for a long time. And, I think the biggest thing that I would recommend is just be a sponge, talk to as many people as you can, learn as much, get as much feedback. Some of it may go in one ear and out the other if somebody's just trolling to get a rise. We have a fair amount of those people that kind of like to tell us that our swings are garbage, and that's totally fine.
Yep.
We appreciate you commenting. If you have any constructive criticism, we're all for it because we're by no means a finished product. Let's actually break down what has changed. So you and I were kind of just chopping it up before we started, and the first biggest thing that we see here in phase 1, the stance, is just you mentioned that I'm a lot narrower and it looks a lot more comfortable. I do look at the swing on the left, and that stance looks a lot more rigid and tense. It's almost like you're in a quarter squat.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit tense. So I think being a little bit taller or more narrow in the base, just a little bit outside of shoulder width, has allowed me to be a little bit more comfortable. I think especially in Conference USSSA or just U-Trip play in general, where the pitcher can pump fake, having the narrower stance has helped just combat that. With the wider stance, I had to load a lot more, and so I had to load earlier, and I think the pump fakes could get me off balance, so this has definitely helped with that. And then one of the other just big epiphanies that I had probably last July was my hand placement when I start my swing. So I think that's probably, other than the foot width and the height of my stance, is really just the hand placement. So you mentioned that in the first swing stance on the left, you've got almost like a 45-degree angle with my back elbow.
Yeah.
Whereas on the right swing, the most recent one, it's almost a 90-degree angle with that back elbow. Really what, for me, it was get the hands high and back, because it's really important. The more I've played and the more I've kind of worked on it, you really want to have a good high attacking position. And I felt like having my hands back and higher, also the height of my stance helps as well. is it's a lot easier to come down and attack the ball from a high position with my hands higher versus having them closer to my head and in a squatted position. You really have to focus on bringing your hands up to get them high and above the ball.
And I would even say, even on a more basic level, the right swing, which is the more current swing, you just look more relaxed. I think you look like you're more prepared to take what comes at you, whereas the other one was, again, it was more rigid. It was more, I don't even know if you were nervous, but it looks nervous. You know what I mean? It looks like, okay, I gotta be ready for whatever's coming, whereas the other one is like, all right, throw me whatever, I'm ready to do it. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Even not so much the nervous part, but if I was to look at these two, I would definitely say that the right side is a lot more confident and comfortable.
Yeah.
If we were to look at it that way, I 100% agree with you in that.
I think just like you pointed out, with the hands being back and the stance being narrower, and we're going to see a little bit more of that when we move forward a little bit, but I think both of those are very much to your advantage later in the swing, and we're going to see that, but definitely wanted to make a point of that narrow stance and that more, the hands being more back and that back arm getting more of that 90 degree is really going to play a big part in everything going forward. So it's almost like you got to build that good foundation if you want a good house. And I think just pointing out that those foundational things have improved there, I think that's going to be a big part of everything we're going to see going forward here in the swing. So
I guess the only thing I didn't mention before, but it's really obvious here, is the foot placement as it relates to the orientation of the plate. You know, everybody that we've talked to, especially at the higher levels and all the swing breakdowns, we've noticed the closer you stand to the pitcher tends to be the more common thing, especially in U-trip, but also we see it in ASA, is you want to stand up in the box because you want to catch the ball a lot higher. There's at least a 3 or 4 inches minimum increase forward that I didn't have previously. And I think that's just what we've learned from talking to people and getting recommendations is up in the box, and you see it pretty clearly here. So let's kind of just go through that preload phase, right? So, what you can't see off camera is that the pitch is being released. And so what we're doing is getting in our position to actually uncoil that swing and really attack the ball. So the first thing you notice is a lot more significant hand movement on the left one. And one thing you notice is, I think part of it is the stance, Cam, that you mentioned, and why you'll notice a lot of improvements is, I think a lot of why the hands were so noisy is the plane of my body moves with that wide stance. I get a lot more narrow, and I also stand up. So one of the things that I had realized as I was doing a lot of tee work is I want to try to be as quiet on the back end and keep my hands as high and as minimal movement as possible. And I found that having the hands lower like that, it was just less consistent through the ball. And so trying to keep the hands back and just removing one variable, which is the hand movement, really helped with my consistency.
Even at this point right here, you've brought, they're a little bit lower on the left, but you brought your hands basically to the same position, but the journey to get there was far less in the newer video on the right, where your hands are kind of already back and you just lean back a little bit, take your step, whereas in the one on the left, a lot of hand movement, kind of a lot of up and down movement, because you have to stand up taller because you were so much wider. So, and
even that front shoulder in the left video moves too. It kind of closes as you get the hands back. And so all that extra movement, just for a player like me who's still trying to figure it out and gain that consistency, any extra movement just added to the potential that something just wouldn't go right mechanically. And so getting rid of a lot of that has just helped with the consistency.
You always talk about how keeping your head still as possible is really helpful for you. And even though you did a good job of keeping that chin glued to your shoulder, like you say a lot in both of these videos, just the fact that your head isn't moving up and down because your body doesn't have to move as far I think helps a lot in just staying even more steady.
Yeah, it does look like the hands in the right video are just slightly higher than in the left video. So I think that if you look at my top hand, it's at about shoulder height in the newer video, and in the older one, it's probably, I would say, about 1 fist lower than the shoulder height. We talk about wanting to have flat swing plane, and having my hands below my shoulder in the left video means that at some point in the swing, my hands are going to have to get back up. and I'm loaded and ready to attack, that's not a really good attack position to keep the ball low, especially if you're trying to hit line drives or trying to put a cut on the ball. You're not going to have a lot of success doing that in that hand position. So let's go ahead and kind of now break down the attacks. So phase 3, where, you know, we're ready to uncoil. So similar attack as far as the lower half goes, right? So we get a similar stride length, I think we talked about.
Yeah.
But one thing you mentioned is that the bat speed was a lot better. I don't know if that's just repetitions or whatnot, but that was one thing that you noticed.
That actually, it wasn't something that I could just see just like in real time with my eyes. It was when I was actually putting this video together to have these two side by side, I lined them up, tried to line them up the best I could for when the bat actually hits the ball. Now, we couldn't get them perfect because I have more frames in one of these videos than I do the other, but basically that's about the point. It's a little bit off, but very close. And so I basically tried to line them up exactly when the strike of the ball happened. And so what I noticed then is that even though they're lined up exactly when you hit, if you look at that bat on the newer video on the right-hand side, like that bat gets through quicker and then actually leaves quicker too. So I think you're just getting more force through, faster hands through than you were before. So I don't know where that happens in the mechanics necessarily, but I'm sure it's the sum of the parts that gets you there. Yeah. But definitely can tell your hands are faster.
We talk a lot about it in our BP videos and in the batting practice 101 video as well, talking about trying to practice at an ounce heavier. I think that's one thing that I've taken to heart and we talk about it in T-Work with you and your Suncoast is getting a bat that maybe is an ounce heavier than your gamer and trying to BP with that. I think I've done that a lot more than I had ever done in the past. Not to mention that we both have started to swing at least an ounce heavier in games as well. And I got to think that that's benefiting our bat speed, is just that we're more comfortable swinging heavy. And so when we do, because this isn't your Griffey Jenny, this is actually Brandon's.
Yeah,
and it's a 26. But because we've been swinging those 27s and all those videos and taking hundreds of swings with that, I can't imagine that we aren't gaining a little bit of bat speed simply by using those heavier bats.
Yeah, and whether it's a gain of strength or not, I don't know, but just the fact that you're used to swinging a heavier implement, you get that muscle memory of a faster twitch movement, and I think that's just a big part of it. You're just ready to swing that thing harder, and then if it happens to be lighter and easier, so be it.
So let's go frame by frame here. Hands are still higher, chin's still good in either way. One thing that you mentioned is you'll notice the bat on the left is lagging a lot further behind than where it is, and I think a lot of it had to do with, you'll see that the Jenny on the right is almost straight up and down, but it's obviously flatter. And that bat on the left is still way behind my head. And so what that means is you're going to have to try to get that bat around a lot faster just because you're not moving or you're late or one of the other things that we talk about is catching it a lot earlier than we used to. So I may be trying to catch this a lot closer to my front foot, and that means I'm just behind, which means you're not going to get as much bat speed. So part of what we do in our tee work is we put the tee where we want to make the connection. And we've learned that that's going to be a lot further forward than we initially had thought. And that just allows your bat to really gain the maximum bat speed through the zone. You almost are going to see a casting in the left video because I'm trying to get around as fast as I can because the ball is getting in on me. Whereas the video on the right, I'm actually way further out to get it. So if you look at the contact point on the left video, the ball's already gone in the right video, right? Because it's hit and it's gone. And you also see a lot better flick, right? We talk about getting that good wrist flick. And you get a much better snap when you're getting the ball way more out in front of you because it gives your bat a chance to flow all the way through the zone and get that whip, as opposed to catching it a lot closer to you where those hands haven't even had a chance to unload yet.
Yeah, and you can see here, like, the ball is gone. It's hard to see, but it is barely in frame over here. So it is gone, but at this point you can even see that the bat is, like, we can't see the end cap of the bat on the Genesis, but we could still see a little bit of the shadow of the end cap on the left hand video there. So you can tell that that bat is already straight out. And again, it's coming around. You can even see your wrist is actually turned over and actually like flicking over.
You can see the barrel changing.
Yeah, it's already
right too,
changing
yeah.
direction. Whereas on the video on the left, you haven't quite gotten to that flick part yet. Now it's starting to turn over, but I mean, look how much farther back the bat is in the right-hand video than it is in the left-hand video, just because you've coming around so much faster.
And then you also see, kind of delving into the fourth part, which is the follow-through, is you look at how much higher I follow through in the old video, the one on the left versus the one on the right. The motion itself is very similar. Like the mechanics of my follow-through, as far as like my torso goes, is very similar. You know, you see that the shoulders are in the same place. The back really follows through at the same speed, but the hands follow through on the right video so much lower than the high follow through you get earlier on in the follow through, right? When you get past there, whatever your hands do, that's irrelevant to the swing because it's been completed. But the swing on the left, that pose right there tells me that you're going to have some slight, if not more significant uppercut.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
going to, you may hit a few bombs, but you're also going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
And that was very common, is I hit a lot of pop-up. We talk about it all the time, right? We want to hit low and hard because that's going to be a more successful way to get on base and to help your team and to score runs, is hitting the ball low and hard. Now, low and hard doesn't mean hit it on the ground, right? You can hit line drives low and hit them hard. Laser Dave has earned a nickname, and if you haven't seen, he now has a pro model monster bat called the Laser Show.
Yep.
Because he hits the ball low and he hits the ball hard. And so, you know, those are just the things that I'm trying to work in, is how do we work out some of those natural elevation techniques that you had in baseball? And part of it comes to how you finish, right? We've talked about it early on in the swing with the stance and the load, is you want to keep the hands high because that ensures that you're coming down on it. And you also want to, on the follow through, you want to keep your hands level and low because that's also going to ensure that you're not elevating up into the point of contact. And I think you see noticeable, they're not like major, but they're noticeable enough that, you know, you can see that a year's worth of actually paying attention to your own swing has allowed me to work on some things. And a lot of it has also been looking at other people's swings that are really good at what they do and trying to figure out how we can implement those techniques.
I would say too, as an outside observer, and I've noticed the same thing about my own swing, but I've definitely noticed about yours, is that you probably have hit, I would say, maybe the same number of, say, home runs, or maybe the same number of like gapped doubles or whatever that maybe you did before. But I would say you get a lot more of those line drives that go all the way to the fence. You hit those balls harder. You get a lot more of those in-betweens that normally may have hung up in the air just long enough that get caught. Now you don't get those. Now you get a lot more of those line drives. And I would say the home runs you do hit are much more, no doubt, they're out of here's than they were like, well, he hit a pop fly that went 305, you know, which again, a home run's a home run, but a month or so ago when we were at a tournament, and I don't think I've ever seen you hit a ball that hard. It was just like an absolute walk-off nuke. It was a 300-foot fence that was 20 foot tall, and it cleared the fence. It was like 30 feet over the fence, like above the fence rather, and it hit a tree and stopped. But like, you weren't hitting that type of ball a year ago. That just,
I totally agree.
You didn't have that trajectory on a ball. Like, you just did not have it. And I think the down and hard, focusing on hitting a ball, a line drive, I think is what's really helped. And again, I've noticed the same thing in my swings too, of I'm doing that a lot more, but I think it's really evident in this. So,
and you know, we say attacking the ball and low and hard, and a lot of this, you know, a lot of it, at least from my perspective, is I know I have that baseball background and I have a natural uppercut, as you can see on the left. When I'm doing my tee work, when I'm doing batting practice, I try to over exaggerate it in my mind, which just allows me to swing a lot flatter. It may just be a mental cue to yourself to be like, hey, start with your hands high, or swing down on it a little bit. And it may not actually result in you swinging down on it. It may result in you going through flatter, which will be more successful. It's not like you're up there chopping wood, but sometimes it's those small mental cues that you tell yourself that allow you to get into the more successful positions to be consistent at hitting those line drives. Any drills that you can think of that we've done this year that you've seen these changes or that we've been able to do to work on these changes?
Yeah, I think a lot of the tee stuff has been super helpful. I mean, one that we just released that basically the cut swing off the tee, like I think that one, even if you're not trying to cut the ball hard all the time, I think just practicing that motion puts you in the right position to do that. So usually you're teeing up the ball higher, you're coming down on the ball, you're focusing on hitting line drives, you're focusing on getting through the ball and not getting under the ball. And I think just all of those things for sure that we kind of focus in our tee work nowadays, I think has been a huge help for that. For obviously for you can see it here, but I can say just anecdotally for myself as well, that just all those drilling through and doing those things and being more purposeful with your practice and your tee work has been super helpful in getting to this point. And it's just going to keep getting better, but getting us here so far.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the videos that we've done to actually kind of just take a step back and say, what are the people that are successful doing and how are they successful? You see a lot of the same themes. Then putting them into practice, but starting with one less variable and really just focusing on doing it off the tee. I don't know if you ever felt this way, but I used to feel this way, that there was a stigma to using a tee in slow pitch softball.
100%.
Right? Somebody's
100%.
throwing it underhands to you. How could you need a tee to hit that? Like,
Yes.
come on. But when you start to really understand the mechanics of slow pitch softball swings and know that there are some inherent mechanical things that baseball just doesn't translate to softball, then that tee really helps you just hammer home those techniques that you really need to be utilizing to be the most successful. And then you can take it into a very focused batting practice session, right? Where you're not just going out there and hitting bombs, but you're actually going and saying, hey, let me try to pull these. Let me try to go middle. Let me try to go backside, and focus on keeping those mechanics to be successful all around. And I think everything about your swing will improve when you can just consistently focus on those mechanics that you need and then just do it over and over and over until it's second nature.
Yeah, I think we can agree the biggest change over the year though is that the shorts have gotten shorter. I think we can say that for sure.
Or the socks have gotten shorter.
The socks have gotten shorter too. So first thing I noticed for sure.
Fair enough.
All right, well, hopefully this bit of insight here of us looking at Jason's swing from a year ago to present day and seeing the ways we've improved, the ways we've seen and changed the different things we've done. Hopefully that's helpful for you too. So if you do like these types of videos and maybe you're even interested in having us look at one of yours, let us know if that's something you're interested in. We're kind of gauging the idea of possibly looking at, maybe some viewers' swings, but we're not quite sure yet. So if that's something you're interested in, leave a comment in the video. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're interested in that. Let us know what you'd like to gain from that. As always, please like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell. Again, leave us a comment about anything, good or bad. If you think our swings are trash, that's fine. You can give us that comment too. We don't mind too much.
If you want to tell us that our swings are trash, we are absolutely open to that feedback, but you have to give us something more than your swing sucks. Give us a tip. Give us this piece of your swing stinks and this is why. Give us something more than just, I'm trying to troll you to get you riled up. We are actually open to your feedback as long as you give us real feedback and you're not just somebody trying to get a rise out of us.
Absolutely.
We'll give you a response either way, and it's going to be a cheery response, and I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, we are absolutely open to your feedback. We are by no means a finished product, so if you have something constructive, we're all ears.
But again, thank you for coming along for this ride. Again, this is a year after these, so we're still going strong, and we're hoping to be putting out even more of these videos for you in 2023 coming up. So thanks a lot, and we will see you next time.